Welcome back to another edition of Fly Tying with Jim Misiura. I've had a request for a basic rundown on tools from a new fly tyer, so I thought I would do that. I do have a video in my materials that gives you a rundown on a lot of the material, but I'm just going to do the tools with this one. We're going to start out with, well, of course, the vise, and many kinds of vices out there. You want to find the one that it best suits you. It doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to hold the hook firmly. A rotary vise is a nice thing to have, but it's not necessary. It's not totally necessary. Start out with a less expensive vise, and as long as it holds the hook firmly in the jaws so the hook doesn't move on you. Here, I'm going to put a hook in my vise here. You want one that's going to hold it firmly. I'm not going to tighten the back, but you don't want this to happen when you're tying. Even here I tighten it a little bit, it's still moving. And then when I tighten it down, you hear that sound. That kind of tells you that you got it in there pretty good. You can take that out for a moment. So you got the vise, and staying with the vise, one of the next things that is something nice to have is a hook and hackle gauge. And here is a hook and hackle gauge. I have other ones, they're black with red, but basically they're the same thing. You take your hook and put it on that to size it up. You can see that would be a size 4 hook. I'm going to put this back on my vise again. I have another nice tool. This is a bobbing cradle. It's like an L shape, but it has a bent part there, and this goes the stem goes on the stem of your vise, and it also moves out of the way, but it has a lock nut, which I never use the lock nut. Now the next thing is bobbin holders. There are many different kinds of bobbin holders on the market. You can pay a real lot of money for them, $30 or more for one bobbin holder, but most people just get something simpler and just pay a few bucks, $5 or less. But this particular one, it has, you can see it has rims, a curled edge or rimmed edge on both sides, and this here is extra weight, so that way it holds. When you let go of it, you got that extra weight to hold that firmly, the thread firmly on your material. Has some nice, what would you call these, the beads on the bottom. Here's another one. This is a ceramic one, and ceramic ones could be a little more expensive, but they could also be cheap ones too. Let's see, we got, well, here's another ceramic one with my thread in it already. Or you can get really cheap and make your own, and I have a video in the materials section on how to make your own bobbin holder. And when you have the bobbin holder, you need a bobbin threader. Well, when you're young, you don't necessarily need a bobbin threader, but once you get a little older, you're going to need that. This basically is the same concept as a needle threader. Put that through there. Get your spool of thread. Just going to use this one. Kind of a mess. This is rod winding thread. Put that on there. Just basic thing. You put your thread through the opening. And then you pull it through and it's through. And most bobbin threaders come with the brass on the back, and it has a half hitch tool on it. Your half hitch tool is pretty easy. It's made for, or half hitch tool is made for putting half hitches in, or basically tying off. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to use this thread because you can see this better. Go ahead and wrap it on there. Got that on. This is rod wrapping thread, so I would actually have to cut it. And here is our half hitch tool. The way we use this, just put it on. Goes once, twice. Always double half hitch. That eye is a little big, but you see it slid right off. And this thread is a little slippery. Once again, once, twice, and then I roll it as I go up because it keeps the tension on it. Put it over the eye and just slide it off. And that's how the half hitch works. And that is the half hitch with on the back of the threader. We have, next tool is a bodkin. This is called a bodkin. It has a long needle and a half hitch tool. And this needle could be used for several different things. For putting your head cement on. I used a brush, but if I wanted to dip my needle in my head cement, then go ahead and put a little bit on there. Put that brush back in there. And by the way, I always use Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails as my head cement. Our next tool would be a dubbing teaser. And what I did here, I had a bodkin and the needle came off, but I took a 22 gauge gun cleaner and I cemented it into my half hitch tool. And this is copper wire, and that teases out the dubbing very nicely. Going to put the thread back on there again. I shouldn't have cut it. And our next tool would be the whip finisher. This is the Martelli style whip finisher. This is very easy to use. Put the hook, catch the hook, go around, and now you have a cross. And you just simply 1, 2, 3, and then push the hook down, release, pull up, and there is your half hitch. And once again, hook it, go around, and now you have an X. Slide that down once, twice, 3 times. Put the hook down, it slides off, pull your bobbin, and there you go. And now here's another really nice tool, And this is what I call my poke and snip, but this is a cuticle trimmer, which, yes, I don't use quite enough on my cuticles, but this will cut that thread very nicely, cuts hackle very nicely, and instead of using scissors trying to trim your hackle and you cut things that you don't want, use a cuticle trimmer and it just cuts that stem, won't cut anything else. And this will get dull, but when it gets dull, just take a piece of sandpaper, I use 120, fold it, and just run it through there. Pretty simple, and that sharpens it. Okay, and now one more point about the bobbin holders. A lot of bobbin holders that you get are, these are mass produced, and they're mass produced overseas. Most things come from India or China. But, like, here's a ceramic tool, the ceramic bobbin holder. And a lot of times you'll find there's nicks in these, right from the manufacturer. There's nicks somewhere inside. And what I do to fix those nicks, you can take a piece of Kevlar thread and put it in there and spin the bobbin on a Kevlar thread. But what I've been doing lately is to take a long needle. This is actually for tying tube flies, which I don't do very often at all. But I'll put this needle in there, and let me put it in the other way. Put this needle in there, and then spin it like so, and that usually takes that little nick off it. Put that long needle in there and spin it. I've been trying to find a small file that would fit inside these, which I haven't had any luck. If anyone knows where to get one of them small files that is about 1/16 or 3/16, anywhere from 1/16, 1/8, or 3/16 in diameter, I'd be happy to hear where that came from. But a lot of them are, a lot of the bobbin holders, like I said, a lot of the bobbin holders, you're going to have that problem. But, don't panic, just get a piece of Kevlar or something to that, or you can get a piece of dental floss and glycerin from a drugstore and put some glycerin on the dental floss, and that will shine up, especially for the ceramic. That will get those nicks out of there. And now the next thing is scissors, and you're going to see a lot of different kinds of scissors. There is two slightly curved scissors. This one with the black handle has a little finer point than this one. We got some basic straight scissors, and I don't know where I got this, but this is the expensive pair, Dr. Slick. And scissors could be cheap, from a couple of bucks up to 10 or 12 bucks for a pair. I use the curved scissors a lot because I can get in there, The next thing would be the hackle pliers, and there's several different kinds of hackle pliers. Here's 3, and there's still some more. Basically, it's just spring loaded, and you put your hackle in there and grab it. This has pretty good tension. It's squeezing my finger there pretty good. But you want a hackle plier that has at least one rubber side. You can see this has the black one is the rubber, and the other piece is a piece of brass. Here, this hackle plier has a rotating, this turns, that turns, and I use this one for delicate work. There's actually a piece of hackle in there, but it has a little piece of plastic or rubber on there. So one side, and this is the one that I use a lot, and this is just, and they use these in electronics work. This is just basically an electrical tester or circuit tester or something like that. You can see there was a wire in here and it went to another one. It was a pair of these. But this one I like the most. Got a nice hook on there, you just clamp it on, and this holds it the best. These other ones with the rubbers and stuff, you're going to find that the hackle slips out of them a lot. Here's a larger one with the electrical tester, but this was actually made for hackle pliers itself. You can see there's a loop on there, so you can put your finger in. You have the hackle on it, and then you can rotate. One thing you should do before you put the hook in the vise is bend down the barb, and these pliers were actually, I bought these for rod building, but they work better. I don't use them for rod building, but they work really nice. These are actually round, tapered. They work really nice for crimping down the barb. Pair of needle nose pliers works. Just crimp that barb right down. The next tool here is something that comes in very handy, and this is an eyebrow brush. You know, Maybelline right on there. Go to your dollar store. You get this really cheap. Bristles here and a comb on the bottom, and I use this mostly when I'm making streamers, using things like the puglisi fibers and the silky fibers, stuff like that. You could comb them out really nice with that. And now that brings us to a hair stacker, and this is my main hair stacker, and this is a nice short one. It's about 1.5 inches, and you got a little rim there. It goes in here, and there's actually a countersunk hole in there, so it only goes so far in and the hair will drop. But I'll put it in there, even out the hair, lift it slightly, tap it again, and then you'll have more hair sticking out. And here is the large one, and this would be for bucktail, very large for bucktail. Next tool would be a dubbing loop device, and I have a couple of them here. Here's one. I'm going to put the thread back on and show you how this works. Oop, my thread's getting all caught up there. Put a couple wraps on there. Go ahead and trim that. And the way this works is you take your dubbing loop, put the hook on it, put the hook on in back of it, and then wrap that around, and you have the dubbing loop, and then you put material in there, and then you twist it, and the material is stuck in there. So basically you kind of make a rope with the materials. This is a heavier one. I'll put another different one on there. Wrap that on there. Take my dubbing loop. I wrap right-handed, so I'm going to use the dubbing tool in my left hand. I have the two in there, the thread in the two hooks. Cover that over, and usually take wax, and this is 100% beeswax with some beeswax on there. And then you can take your material, let me see, let's say your material, what you want to make a loop with was black rabbit hair. You pull that off, open the thread, and put that in there. And then fill it up as much as you want, and then I hang it and just give it a spin. And there is, now you kind of have a dubbed or a rabbit hair hackle, and then you can wrap it. Going to unwind that, just cut it off. Secure that, break that off. Pull that thread off. Now, the one that I use most of the time, it's a smaller one, but it's still got nice weight to it. So I'm going to hook, bring it around the hook, wrap it a couple times. You can actually wrap it around that thread, what I just did there. Put a little bit of wax on there. You don't need a lot of wax, just have to make it tacky. And that helps hold it in place so it doesn't fall out when it's loose. Then I'm going to take my dubbing block, and this is a really indispensable, you can make your own very, very cheaply. This is just, as you can see, this is just sticky back foam with, I don't know, 15 sheets stacked on top of each other. The bottom one is I stuck sticky side to sticky side there, and then stack them on top of each other. And then you take your razor blade and cut a slot in it, and I cut the slot down to the razor blade's depth. And what you do with this, you take I use this mostly with CDC, and you take the CDC feather, I'll take a black one here to show you this. It'll be a good contrast on top of the yellow. What I'll do is I'll take the CDC feather, hold it by the tip, kind of stand them up, brush it back, and you can trim that tip off before you put it in there. Makes it easier trimming in the later step. We take this, place the stem right on the slot, put the stem right on the slot. Then we take our bodkin needle, get that stem lined up nicely, and you push this down inside. And now you take your clip, and this is just a potato chip bag clip. Make sure you have one with a smooth edge. And you can get these. I got this clip and 5 others for $1 at the dollar store. Between this block and the chip clip, it costs you less than $1 to make. Clip it on, and then you pull it out. And now we can trim the stem off. And when you trim the stem off, trim it close to the stem. And here we have our feather, our CDC feather in the clip. Now I'm going to open up the dubbing loop. I put the whole clip in there, slide it off slowly, and then once it slides off, release the clip, and then I'm going to hang it, and I'm going to give it a spin, and you got yourself a nice CDC hackle. Some of it fell out of the bottom, but you have yourself a nice CDC hackle, and you don't have to have that big stem in the way, adding more bulk to it. You just have two wraps of thread, and then you would wrap it. I'm gonna wrap this all. You can stroke it towards the rear as you're going. I'm gonna tie that off now. Go ahead and trim this. Take my poke and snip. And here's a good example of the poke and snip. I could get that in there nice. If I used a scissors, I'd be cutting CDC with it, and I just cut the thread. Put that on the side. Now, a lot of times when you have a CDC loop or a dubbing loop of other things, take your dubbing teaser. What happens with the CDC and the other, you wrap over it. So you just take your dubbing teaser, and it helps to pull the fibers out. Get that out of the way. Helps to pull the fibers out that might have gotten wrapped over. And you got a nice little CDC. Just going to wrap that down. Got a nice little CDC hackle there. Take my whip finish once again. Remember, hook it, go around, and now you have that X. Once, twice, 3 times. Put the hook down, slides off, pull the bobbin. Hope that you learned something from this video. Hope that you would subscribe to my channel. Please refer me to your friends. Please visit my sponsors. I only plug the sponsors because they are quality materials and at decent prices. But that's it for the basic materials, and thank you very much for watching my videos.